again to all of you who have just joined us for our live Megiddo preseason webinar, where we're going to talk about the upcoming 2022 season. Of course, we're all super excited to be back on the tell after our COVID hiatus. We're super excited to have so many folks interested this season and joining us. So this is very exciting for all of us and for all of you. We're going to start today with some remarks by Israel Finkelstein, our director, the founder of the Renewed Excavations at Megiddo, and all around great guy. So Israel, I'm going to hand it over to you. And why should we want to dig at Megiddo?
Okay, so why to dig at Megiddo? Let me give you a few good answers to this question, and let me try to convince you that Megiddo is the center of the universe, and you need to come dig with us. So here you have a nice aerial picture of the tail looking at the Jezreel Valley with the beautiful landscape, I would say even biblical landscape of the Jezreel Valley. Megiddo is located on the international road which led in antiquity from Egypt in the south to Mesopotamia, Syria, Anatolia in the north, and it guards this international road in a very strategic place where it goes from the hills into the valley, and hence the importance of the site. For this reason, it is mentioned, in fact, in all records of the ancient Near East. I think this is the only place in Israel, in the southern Levant, which is mentioned in Egyptian sources, in Assyrian records, in a single Hittite record or inscription, and of course, many times in the Bible, a very important place in the biblical text. And it is connected to big names in antiquity, starting, if you wish, with Thutmose III and the big battle of Megiddo in the 15th century BC, via Solomon, Sheshonq of Egypt, then to King Josiah of Judah, and of course, one cannot forget the tradition of Armageddon, which is very important and has to do with the biblical traditions of the Old Testament, and we will be speaking about it in the lectures in the study program at Megiddo. For all these reasons, Megiddo was excavated in the past 3 times and has been excavated by us in the last 20-something years. In fact, the first excavation commenced in 1903 by a German expedition. Then the University of Chicago, which you see on the left-hand side bottom, in the 1920s and 30s. Then the very well-known famous Israeli archaeologist Yigal Eliadin, last century in the 60s and 70s, and finally our own expedition in the last 25 years or so. And the results of these excavations, the results are really impressive and important. Megiddo features 30 cities, 30 settlements, in fact more than that, built one on top of the other, and we can see here the big sectional trench which was cut by the University of Chicago excavators last century through the various strata of the site all the way down to bedrock. And it has more beautiful monuments from the Bronze Age and from the Iron Age than any other site in the Levant. In fact, in the I should say one of the only such sites in the entire ancient Near East. We can see in this picture one of the wings of the famous Iron Age gate of Megiddo. In fact, today it has been reconstructed, and we see even more than this. This picture was taken long ago. On the left-hand side, you can see the Megiddo water tunnel, a unique monument at the site. And of course, Megiddo is a trove of unique artifacts. You can see some of our own finds here, very impressive ones, I suppose, and also some of the beautiful finds uncovered at Megiddo by the University of Chicago expedition. On the left top, we can see a base of a statue of Ramesses VI, Pharaoh of Egypt. On the right hand side, top, one of the very well-known Megiddo ivories, and then the very also celebrated, I should say, seal of Jeroboam, the second king of Israel, which had been found at Megiddo by the German expedition more than a century ago. For all these reasons, Megiddo became a very well-known symbol, cultural icon. We can see here in this picture the momentous event of the meeting of the president of Israel with the Pope, the first visit of a Pope ever to the Holy Land in 1964. Paulus VI was there, and this is the picture taken there at Megiddo in 1964. Megiddo was chosen to be the place, the location of this meeting, and for many other reasons, including I'm bringing you here a picture of the film Armageddon on the right-hand side. So, and a cultural icon, and also a World Heritage Center, declared as a World Heritage Center. The goals of the expedition. We set from the very beginning several goals for the expedition. First of all, to recheck the stratigraphy and chronology and strengthen the role of Megiddo as a key site for deciphering the history and culture of the Bronze and Iron Ages. There's no site like Megiddo, and hence it is really the center for constructing the history and material culture, archaeology, if you wish, of the Levant, of this part of the world in the Bronze and Iron Ages. Then the second goal, to reinvestigate monuments exposed in the past by previous expeditions and learn about their date and cultural affiliation. Then make the excavation a laboratory for new methods and techniques, and finally shed new light, of course, on the history of ancient Israel, biblical exegesis, and the history of ancient Israel. Now you have to wait a minute because my dog wants to go out from the room. So I have to, you will get to know Lola at Megiddo when you come. So now we can continue. In any event, let me give you examples of the four goals, how we achieve the four goals we set for the expedition. So first of all, the goal number one, stratigraphy and chronology. As you know, there is no history without accurate chronology. And the unique strength of Megiddo is our control over detailed stratigraphy, good control over the ceramic finds, and the very large number of radiocarbon determinations. And here you see the stratigraphy of one of our excavation areas with a relative chronology, which means we know according to pottery that this is late bronze 2 and that is late bronze 3 and this layer is early iron 1 and so on and so forth. And then with radiocarbon dating, we translate this to accurate absolute dating, and we know that the layers are from this and that dates, and we can reach accuracy of almost 30 years. And we are speaking about period 3,000 years ago. So this is quite impressive, I should say. These are the absolute dates. And this is the way that we are working at Megiddo in order to achieve this goal. Goal number two, reinvestigating monuments unearthed in the past. I'm giving you here an example from the excavation in 2018. This is, in fact, the last time that we were in the field, because in 2019, most of us here on the screen, I mean, the expedition, the staff of the expeditions, we excavated a site near Jerusalem. And then in 2021, COVID was already around and we could not work in the field. But in 2018, we excavated, as you can see, the gate, the famous, very well-known Solomonic, quote unquote, gate of Megiddo. So we are dealing with these monuments, the gates of Megiddo, the fortifications, the temples at Megiddo, and the other monuments such as the Megiddo stables and so on. Goal number three, laboratory for new methods and techniques. I suppose that I have to mention that we are working on this both in the field and in the laboratory. In the field, you can see here something, I'm not sure that we'll have it every season at Megiddo, but this picture was taken a few years ago with the laboratory in the field, helping us to take decisions regarding checking sediments, checking things to do with the destruction layers and so on. And in fact, helping us to take decisions regarding how to continue, how to expand the excavation. And of course, here you see also another picture in the field and also in the lab. And in recent years, we have had major breakthroughs at Megiddo regarding ancient DNA, regarding paleomagnetism of the planet, regarding analysis of molecular residues in ceramic vessels, pointing to trade in antiquity, the Bronze Age, and a bit later with lands afar in the Far East, importing commodities such as vanilla and cinnamon from lands afar. So all these are new methods that are being, analysis that are being carried out by the expedition. Finally, goal number 4, new light on the history of ancient Israel. Of course, the results of the Megiddo excavations have already shed light on this topic. There is a complete revolution in the understanding of the northern kingdom of Israel regarding trade, regarding cult, regarding the monuments themselves, regarding the intervention of the central authority of the kingdom in the daily affair of this important administrative city of the kingdom in the northern valleys. All this, of course, could not have been achieved without the help of all our devoted team members, some of whom you can see in these pictures, and you can see that we are working hard, we are studying, and we are also having fun. And what can I say? See you at Megiddo soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Israel. I'm excited to get back to Megiddo.
You're welcome, Margaret.
We're going to move on now to one of our other co-directors, Matthew Adams, and he's going to talk a little bit about specifically what we'll be doing this season, the areas that we'll be working in, and a little bit more about the archaeology of the upcoming excavation. Matt?
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about our goals for the 2022 season, specifically which areas of the tell we'll be working in. Welcome to Megiddo. Nice aerial shot looking south from the Jezreel Valley over much of the tell. You can see a lot of excavation areas here on the site, many of them initiated by the University of Chicago, as Israel discussed, many of them continued by us today. Current directors are Israel, myself, and Mario Martin, who's not here with us today, but you can see the three of us here on the bottom right. This image shows you all of the areas that we've been working in since 1992. You can see that, of course, we label each area by a letter designation. I'm very happy to report that we've gotten to the end of the letters. Z is one of our most recent areas. And so we are facing an interesting nomenclature problem for one of the new areas we'll be opening up this year, but I'll come to that very shortly. Of these number of areas, we'll be focusing in on 5 main locations this year. 4 of them have been under excavation in past seasons, and one of them will be brand new. Area S and Z on the north side of the site, Area K in the southeast, Area X on the west, and Area question mark in the dead center of the tell. Let's look at each of these in turn. The north side of the site, where Area S and Z are focused, has long been the main entrance and exit point for the city. Therefore, most of the excavations there are focused on the gate and fortification infrastructure. In Area S, which you see here, we're focusing on one of the locations where the University of Chicago got the deepest into the tell. In fact, much of the architecture that you see within the circle there belongs to the Middle Bronze Age 1 period, so roughly 2000 BC. And we've picked up where they left off, elucidating some of the architectural history of these fortifications, these different colors representing different additions to the fortification and gate structure over time. And in the new circle, showing you where we'll be excavating this summer in 5 or 6 squares, focused on getting as deeply as possible into the site. Now, in the last season, we were able to uncover several different layers of the Middle Bronze Age 1 and new evidence for the Intermediate Bronze Age and Early Bronze Age here at the site. So this is very exciting for us because these two periods have only so far been uncovered in any substantial detail on the other side of the site in an area called Area J, where we excavated a sequence of monumental temples covering those particular periods. So we're really excited this summer to see if indeed the size of Megiddo is the size of the later tell here on this side of the site, but also to close the gap in our chronology, as I'll explain in just a moment, between the much excavated later periods, Middle Bronze, Late Bronze, and Iron Age, and much excavated Early Bronze Age. Here is where we're going to see those chronological systems come together for the first time in our excavations. Moving just to the east of Area S, we have Area Z, which is again focused on the gate area, but this time at a much later period in the Iron Age 2 period. In the center left, you see the excavations of the University of Chicago and the famous Solomonic gate system, which we investigated in 2018, redating that structure to a little bit later in the Iron Age 2 period. And we're planning to pick up again in this area. Here you see an aerial view of the Solomonic gate to the left, and directly overhead view of the gate with the area that we'll be excavating this summer. This area is being supervised by Eitan Levy, who's here today. Eitan, can you just say hi for us? Okay, he'll wave.
Hi.
Great. We have a good opportunity here to excavate the later phases of this gate, in particular, a sequence of 2 or 3 gates, which was built on top of these Middle Iron Age gates, dating to the 8th and 7th centuries BC. This is also a really contentious area because this excavation offers us the opportunity for the first time in our excavations to tie the gate stratigraphy here back to other strata on the site. Okay, circling around to the southeast in Area K, this is one of our long-running excavation areas. It started already in 1994, started at the top of the site in some of the later excavation strata and in the later Iron Age 2 period, and has already gotten down into the Middle Bronze Age. So that earlier Middle Bronze Age connection allows us to tie back into Area S, for example, and some of the other excavations on the site. However, that's a secondary goal of Area K. This is, along with our former Area H, has really been our slow and steady excavation area, being as careful as possible and using some of those scientific methods and radiocarbon dating that Israel talked about. Here is where we have our tightest chronology, and we plan to continue excavation here in order to close these chronological gaps. In particular, I have this image to show you. This is the current stratigraphy, at least up through 2014. And what it's showing you on the left-hand side are all of the strata from Area K, J, and H. And you can see that there's kind of a gap in this Middle Bronze Age 1 and 2 and Intermediate Bronze Age that we're really aiming to close in this season and future seasons. All right, circling around now to the west to Area X. This is an area that is being excavated by Asaf Kleiman. And Asaf, can you say hi and tell us a little bit about what's going on in this particular area?
Yes, thanks, Matt, and hi to everyone. In essence, what we want to achieve in this area, in Area X, is to expose the later history of Megiddo in the Assyrian period. And this is one of the only places, the site, in which we can really get clues about what happened to the city after the collapse of the Northern Kingdom of Israel and the establishment of Megiddo as the capital of the province Megiddo. So we are looking very much forward to the excavation this season, and I hope that we'll find the new finds.
Great. Thank you, Asaf. Now to our final area of the season, Area Question Mark. And you'll notice that Area Question Mark is a little bit special. All these other areas that I've talked about, and if you remember the image I showed you early on of all of the excavation areas that we worked in, this is the first time that we're going to the direct center of the tell. And this is somewhat unique with regard to excavation strategies across the southern Levant. Most excavations tend to focus on the exterior areas of the tell, where they can get into fortifications, which help to tie into stratigraphy. So we're jumping right into the center here, and we're hoping for some great finds. We have some very interesting clues about what is going on here. Here's another shot for you. The University of Chicago excavations reached stratum 3 in this area. All of those buildings that you see right in the center there that are part of the Assyrian city that Asaf just mentioned. This was completely excavated by Chicago, and our first goal is going to be to remove some of those buildings to get at the last breath of the Northern Kingdom of Israel's architecture and stratigraphy here. And one of the reasons that we've chose this particular location is because some of the on-the-ground clues that have been eroded from the site in the past seasons. If you look very closely in the bottom center here, you see that this Assyrian building is built on top of some earlier wall. And here it is from another angle here. This wall is very exciting because from its location, we're pretty sure that we can surmise with some certainty that it dates to the last Israelite period, because it's directly built upon by the Assyrians, and it is also monumental in nature. It's more than 1 meter wide. And if we compare other architecture from the Iron Age to this particular wall, one's immediately struck by this particular building here, Palace 6000, which is a slightly earlier Iron Age 2 palace building. If we're right, we're looking at a public structure of some sort, maybe a palace that dates to the Iron 2B period, the period of the 8th century, and possibly to the era of King Jeroboam II, which we're all very excited to find at Megiddo. Now, in addition to this potentially being an administrative structure, it also fills in one of our larger gaps at Megiddo, which is how was the 8th century city of Megiddo run and administered, and by whom? And we ask this question because we know that this particular city was of great importance to the Northern Kingdom of Megiddo. You may have heard of the famous stables of Megiddo, which are located at a number of locations across the site in the northeast and the southwest. We know that Megiddo was an important horse center during the 8th century, but who was running it and how did that happen? This will be our first opportunity to look at the administration of this very important 8th century city. So with that, I welcome you all to Megiddo, and I turn this all back to Margaret to talk about the next things.
All right, and I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure, maybe I missed it, Matt, you spoke about Area S, and that's going to be supervised by Zach Dudseth, right?
Actually, Zach will be running Area
sorry,
K.
I misspoke. You're
I didn't mention him because he didn't join us today, but you'll get to meet him on the site. Area S will be under my direct authority.
And you also didn't mention the lovely director of the new area.
That's right. Thank you for that. The area question mark will be run by Margaret herself. I'm sorry, I got a little excited about hearing myself talk.
All right, just wanted to let everyone know of our all of our wonderful supervisors. We have a great staff at Megiddo. I think it's one of the great strengths of our expedition. We have a lot of great people who are with us this season and people who have been with us in the past seasons. We really have great folks in the field. And so we're really excited for new folks to join us and meet everyone. What we're going to do now, now that we've heard about the site and about the plans on the archaeological plans for the upcoming season, I'm going to say just a little bit about kind of the daily life of the expedition, the stuff that happens not so much on the tell, but kind of how it works in our accommodations and kind of the daily schedule. And then we will take any questions. We are going to use the Q&A feature. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and put them into that Q&A down at the bottom of your screen, and we will try to field some of those questions. So a little bit about kind of daily life. Some of you have already gotten a lot of information if you've already registered, and if you've checked out our website, there's a lot of this information there too. Excavation is pretty tough work. And so we start very early in the morning to take advantage of the cooler temperatures. This means you can expect a very early wake up time. We will be working on the site from 5 o'clock in the morning. So our buses usually leave the kibbutz where we stay, which is very close to the site, at maybe 4:45 or 4:50. We'll set the time when it comes. We drive over to the site, which is just 5 or 10 minutes, and then we get ready to work at 5 in the morning. Again, this is the cooler time of day, so it's a little bit more comfortable. We will work until a breakfast time around 8:30. We'll take a break. We will have kind of a picnic breakfast at the site itself. And this is a time also for kind of daily announcements and other kinds of organization. So breakfast is an important part of the day. After breakfast, we'll continue to work on the site. We take a break around 11. There's usually a snack, maybe some fruit. And then we finish up work on the site around 1 o'clock. It's at that time that we bring all of our finds and our equipment back down off the tel, and we head back to the kibbutz. When we get there, we will have lunch in a dining hall there that is basically just for our use, so that's nice. After lunch, we have kind of a break from roughly 2-ish to 4 o'clock is a time when a lot of people like to rest. I'll give you a little heads up now that our dear leader, Israel, likes to rest during this time. So it's important to be quiet around the dormitories. But it is a time when a lot of people like to rest, but it's also a time when people like to go to the pool or to sit outside. It's a time when you can catch up on, any kind of errands that you have, like email. Sometimes you can go to the kibbutz grocery if it's open then. And so it's just kind of a little bit of free time for you to do what you like. At 4 o'clock, we reconvene for an afternoon work session at the kibbutz. And this is the time when you will wash a lot of pottery so that we can see all the wonderful things that you found up on the site. It's also a time when we'll do other tasks that need to be done. Sometimes that means washing animal bones. Sometimes that means helping to mark pottery or to do other tasks that are necessary. And then after that work is finished, there's either a little bit of free time, or if you are enrolled in one of the courses, that course will meet usually at 6 o'clock. That's generally that's the field techniques class. So if you're taking that field techniques class, you'll probably have a lesson at 6. Sometimes that's a lecture, or sometimes it's kind of a hands-on workshop. Like if we're teaching a skill, for example, how to take elevations or something like that, it might be sort of more of a workshop. Dinner is at 7 o'clock back in our dining hall. And then following dinner, we'll have a second course meeting. And this is the lecture course. If you're taking the history class, that class will meet after dinner at 7. And this is usually just a regular lecture with some discussion and Q&A. I've had some folks ask me if people who are not registered in the class are allowed to come to those lectures, and the answer is yes. Anything that's a lecture style, you're very welcome to come and listen, even if you're not registered. The only thing that we ask for registered students only is if for the techniques course, if it is a kind of workshop, so that we have kind of enough time to make sure that we're teaching those skills to the folks who are registered. So that's kind of what the day looks like. Most people head to bed pretty early after that second lecture, and then we kind of start all over again. I'll just say a brief word about the weekly schedule. So we will excavate beginning Sunday morning, and we'll go through Thursday. So our arrival and departure, as many of you who are registered know, arrival is Saturday afternoon, late afternoon, evening, so that everyone is present for that Sunday morning, and then we work until Thursday. And then Thursday afternoon is kind of our departure time. So if you're staying for 1 week or any given week, that's kind of the beginning and end. For those of you who are staying more than 1 week, on the weekend, so that is from Thursday afternoon until Saturday evening, that is free time. A lot of people like to go off the kibbutz and travel and sightsee, and we encourage that, and we can help you with tips and suggestions and things like that when you're with us. But you can also stay on the kibbutz if you choose. Your room is still yours if you're staying for the following week. But there are not dig meals during that time. And if you're with us and you're with us over the weekend, we can also give you a lot of information. There's a grocery store in the kibbutz. There's places that you can prepare food. There's places that you can go out for food. So we can give you more information on site. So that's kind of the daily schedule and the weekly schedule. I'll just say one more thing about kind of the overall experience. You are living with a lot of people and working with those people. And so one of the most important things on any excavation is for everyone to have a really fun and great attitude. Sometimes things are hot, sometimes the work is hard, sometimes your roommate got in the shower first, but really kind of being a good sport and having a good sense of humor goes a long way, so that we can all have a really great time. It's important to take care of yourself, to drink a lot of water, to rest up, to follow the directions about the actual excavation from your supervisors so that you stay safe and feel good about it. So we're here to kind of take care of you and show you a great time and have great archaeology and do all of these things kind of within this very busy, packed schedule. All right, with that, I think we will try to take some questions. Let's see. Okay, we have, oh my gosh. Okay, we have a couple of questions that I'm gonna read and ask Israel or Matt or Asaf to jump in on. These are more kind of site archaeology related questions from our friend Achilles. Hello. Do you know if the University of Chicago has some of the objects discovered at Megiddo and what those objects might be? And I'll just read the other one from him also. Could you remind us how many strata have already been identified at Megiddo? Thank you so much. So I'm gonna let one of you guys jump in about some of the Chicago excavations.
Israel, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, of course, Chicago has some of the finds from Megiddo. There's no question. The Megiddo finds are scattered all over, and they are on display in the Israel Museum, in the Rockefeller Museum in Jerusalem, and in Chicago. Number of layers of strata at Megiddo. The University of Chicago counted altogether 19 or 20 strata. We are working in a more delicate way, and we have identified so far, I suppose, something like 30 plus settlements built one on top of the other. So the 20 of Chicago became 30 or more than that with us.
Great, thank you. I just want to comment in the chat, there have been a few questions about whether or not this is being recorded, and it is, and that recording will be available afterwards. I think, Matt, did you post a link for that or not yet?
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, so so there are links for that on Facebook and YouTube, so stay tuned if you need to check out the recording. Also, there have been a couple questions about readings. Where can you find more information about Megiddo, about the excavations? I think some in the chat, there are some suggestions posted. Also on our Megiddo website, there is a section on there with some bibliography. So if those of you, especially, I think on the website, the bibliography is especially good for students of archaeology if you're looking for information on that. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on other resources. Israel. know, Matt,
Well,
anybody?
I can only say that there are two books have recently been published on Megiddo, and we need to take a note. I don't remember anymore if they are listed on our website or not. One is by our friend David Yosishkin, summarizing, so to speak, the history of excavations at Megiddo, and the other one by another friend of us who was with us at Megiddo, Eric Klein, on the history of the University of Chicago excavations at Megiddo. So take note of these two books.
Super, thank you.
Both of those are linked in the chat. And I also just linked the link to purchase our latest site report, Megiddo 6, which just came out a couple of days ago. There is a 30% discount code for that. I will find it and link that as well. It's a great deal.
Great, thank you. A few other sort of logistical questions. Some folks are wondering about the size of the team and also kind of deadlines for applications and things like that. So our team is looking to be pretty sizable this season. So far, we have received some kind of inquiry and or actual registration from probably 100 or more people. I suspect in the end, we will have a fair group with us each week. Right now, our first 2 weeks are getting pretty full. Our second 2 weeks have a little bit more space, but we can take more folks in any of the 4 weeks. So those of you who are interested but have not yet applied for registration, you can still do that. We are still taking applications. I'm still getting inquiries every day, so there's no problem there. Someone has asked about enrolling for courses, and that too is still open. You can add a course if you've already registered and we're already in communication. If you're thinking about adding one or both of the courses, feel free to just send me an email and I can help you with that. I should mention about the courses, those each are 3 credits. They're offered, the credits come from Tel Aviv University. In the past, all of the folks who have taken our Tel Aviv course who are looking to transfer those credits, to my knowledge, that's always been fine, but it's always something that you want to check with your program about how they handle transfer credits, if that's something you're looking for. We will have more information, syllabi and things like that coming out probably next month for the courses. So those of you who are registered who are looking for that, stay tuned, it's coming. What else did I have here?
Margaret, before you continue, let me, I noticed that we did not introduce 3 of our friends on the screen, and we have to introduce them. So let me do that. These are the new acquisitions, so to speak, of the Megiddo Expedition. We have Reli Avisar, Reli Rise and Shine. Reli Avisar, who is now running the Megiddo office at Tel Aviv University and in charge of all the operations, daily operations of the expedition in Tel Aviv in Israel. And then we have the 2 officers, so to speak, who are in charge of our media channels. Shachar Gofer, Rise and Shine, Shachar, wave over here, and Asaf Weiss. And as you know, we are following the Egyptian history. And since we have already 3 Asafs with us, so we have the old, middle, and new Asaf, like old kingdom, middle kingdom, and new kingdom in Egypt. So this Asaf Weiss, is the new Asaf.
Great, thank you. Sorry that I forgot you guys. Let's see, I think there's one other question here in the Q&A that I just wanted to answer quickly. The question is what is our yearly schedule? So typically we excavate every second summer. And that was pretty much the norm up until COVID these last couple of years. So our last time on the Tel, I think as somebody mentioned, was 2018. So this is kind of a long hiatus, but usually we're there every second summer. Let's see. I don't see other questions in the Q&A. You're okay on the chat? Okay. Any other questions from folks? Please feel free to put those into the Q&A. If there's anything about the upcoming season, logistics, anything you want to ask one of our area supervisors about.
Margaret, there was another question right now.
Okay. Oh, hi. Hi, Robin. We are still taking applications. And as we take applications closer and closer to the season, I also roll that payment deadline to be appropriate. So applications still open. We still have space in all 4 weeks, especially in the last 2 weeks, but in all 4 weeks we have space. So we are happy to continue taking folks who are interested. We have lots of space in the courses, so no problem there. So yeah, people should definitely get in touch. We have an online registration form that you can find on our website. So yeah, we're waiting for you eagerly. Another question. Hi, Chris. How are we assigned to excavation areas? So usually, unless someone has really specified that they're extremely interested in a particular time period, this typically is if it's a student of archaeology and they're really working on something specific, and they mention that, then I'll try to put them in an area where that's relevant. But generally, it's a little bit arbitrary. We try to divide up the team in terms of ages and genders and people with experience and without experience, and things like that, just to sort of make each individual area team suitable for the area. But I can, as long as I'm able to, try to accommodate specific requests. Let's see.
Margaret, until you look at the question, let me engage in a little bit of self-promotion, if I may. People were asking about the reading list. I should also direct you to the talks. I hope they are interesting, between Matt Adams, who's sitting here, and me. And they are video clips available on the Albright Live channel. Matt, can you link? Many of these talks deal
Yes,
with
I'll link it.
things. Many of these talks, there are 26 talks altogether, and many of them deal with things that have to do with Megiddo.
Thanks, Israel. I'll throw this quick question out to you guys too. We have a question from Eduardo. Would you describe Megiddo more as an Egyptian site or a Near Eastern one? So anyone want to comment a little bit on our kind of lovely geographic location?
Matt.
Sure. I would say that for most periods, it's very much a southern Levantine site, a Near Eastern site more generally. Although, of course, there are major connections with Egypt in almost all periods that we've excavated. Connections in the early Bronze Age, Middle Bronze Age, Late Bronze, all the ages. In fact, we have evidence for material and political contact between Egypt and Megiddo. And in particular, in the Late Bronze Age, we know from textual sources and material culture at Megiddo that Megiddo was very much under the thumb of the Egyptian rulership during that period.
Thank you. I want to address this next question because it's a good one and I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet. It's about COVID. So the question is, what are the COVID regulations? And I'll just say a few words generally about the COVID situation. Those of you who have already registered have received an email from me or will shortly, if you've only recently registered in the last few days, an email that talks a little bit about COVID in Israel, the regulations right now for entering at the border. In that email is a link to the most up-to-date government guidelines in English. So that is a website that everyone who is planning to arrive in Israel should check out. It's extremely detailed. It's a lot of information. I have had to read it several times to really kind of get everything. So please take your time and read it carefully. Currently, Israel is open to tourists, which has been a major significant opening in recent months. Those of us coming on the excavation will enter, who are not Israeli citizens, will enter on a regular tourist visa. So when you arrive at the airport, there will be certain COVID regulations. You will have had to show a negative PCR test to get on your flight. And you will also have to fill out certain documents, which again, if you look at that website that I sent you, there are the details of those entry documents. When you arrive at the airport, you will have to take a second PCR test at the airport. And we are encouraging you to try to plan your travel so that you arrive in time to take that test and hopefully get your negative result back prior to meeting the dig bus. The reason for that is technically everyone is required to go into isolation for 24 hours upon arriving in Israel or until you get that negative test. And so we're trying to make that time period as simple as possible and as comfortable as possible. So if you already arrived to the excavation with your negative test, then you're golden and you can go right into your accommodations. There isn't kind of this in-between period. At the excavation, we will of course be paying attention to whatever the government guidelines are at that time. These are guidelines, as you know, everywhere in the world are shifting constantly as the situation changes. So we are following all of those government guidelines closely to see what, if necessary, will be required of us. And of course, we will continue to update you as we learn any changes. You should also be aware, and again, it's in that government website, right now, tourists have to show proof of insurance that covers COVID costs. So please be aware of that. There are some online insurance sites that are sort of specifically dealing with this. So if you look around, I'm sure you can find one. Matt has been using one this year for travel to Israel. So if you want the link to that particular site, they're not paying me, but I'm sure like this site, there are many companies that are kind of dealing specifically with this requirement. What else?
Margaret,
Matt, do you want to, or Israel, do you want to?
Yeah, let me just say that for those people, who are, when people are landing and taking the PCR at Ben Gurion Airport, typically the answer comes in something between 6 and 8 hours.
Right. So it usually doesn't take that whole 24 hours to get that result back, which is great. So if you're flying in, in the morning and you take the test, hopefully you should have that back 3, 4, or 5 hours, something like that, and go about your business. So that's what we're really hoping. And we're hoping even as we get closer to summer that becomes even more normative, but just be aware that you do have to have that second test. And and until you get that negative result, you're kind of in this little bit of a liminal place until you can really go out into regular Israeli life. That reminded me of one other thing, and now it's escaped me. Okay, maybe it'll come back to me. A few other things that I want to, I know what it was. Of course, if you happen to receive a positive test at that airport test, there are regulations, again, in that government website, you will see them, that you definitely want to check out, because we might not have a lot of control over that. You might be sort of part of the government system at that point and have to quarantine and perhaps have to pay for accommodation in quarantine and things like that. So make sure you check out that section of the government document just so everyone is aware. All right, there are many other questions. I will mention, someone has asked about recommended packing. We do have some information about that. I'm not sure if it's currently visible on the website, but I'm going to check on that. And if it's not, we'll put it up. but basically for excavation, you want cool, comfortable clothing. You want sturdy shoes. Sturdy shoes are required up on the site. So I recommend something like a hiking boot or a hiking shoe, although some people wear sneakers, but definitely no sandals. You want something that will stand up to the work. You should be aware that we will be doing laundry on the kibbutz once a week, free laundry this season that the kibbutz will do for us. So that will be usually in the middle of the week. So if you're thinking about your stay, you can kind of have that in mind. You'll definitely need a hat, something for your head. You'll need a water bottle. You'll need things like, you know, a bathing suit and a pool towel. Some people like to bring a bath towel too. We do have linens at the kibbutz, but sometimes people like their own. I'm blanking on kind of more specifics at the moment of what to bring, but I'm gonna put that post up for you on the website so you guys can check out more information about that. Let's see. Okay, we have a request about posting those URLs. Maybe Matt, that's in the chat. They're difficult to copy when they're like in a row. So great, thanks. Someone asks about weekend visiting sites. Typically, the dig itself doesn't organize, say, a tour to a site. However, it's almost every season been the case that groups of folks who are on this on the dig kind of chat among themselves during the week, and often a group of folks will say, "Oh, we really want to go see, you know, Tel Dan." And then what we're able to do is, if there's, let's say, 10 people who want to go up to Tel Dan, we can help you maybe rent a minibus. Not that the dig pays for that minibus, but we can help you with the logistics, or we can help you find drivers or taxis. We can give you tips. So we can really help you with some of those logistics if there's a group of folks who have an idea to go visit a place. Sometimes people have organized trips to the Dead Sea, to sites around the area. So that's definitely a possibility on weekends. Let's see. So someone has asked about folks who are going to be there for the full season, and folks who might only be coming for a week or two, in terms of kind of the experience. So I definitely, if you're there for the full season, you'll really see something different than if you're just there for a week, because seeing the opening of the squares and the beginning of the work, and then all of the excavation and sort of the final product is really, it's really a great experience. You really feel like you've accomplished a lot, and hopefully you've really gained some understanding about the archaeology. So that's definitely, I think, you know, a really, especially if you're a student of archaeology, or you are interested, like very interested in archaeology, that's really something to see. Folks who are there for a week or two, still really fun, and maybe a little bit easier on your muscles. It's definitely a shorter experience, especially 1 week. It goes by, you know, fast. They're busy days. But I think that it's really, especially for folks who have maybe never excavated and it's something that they've always been interested in doing, it's really a great way to kind of get a taste of what archaeology is like, to see actual excavation, to hold actual pottery and artifacts. So it's definitely a different experience if you're there for 1 week versus the full season, but I think there's a lot to be said for both. Israel, should we, we're at about an hour, folks, or is there anything that you want to say in goodbyes?
Sure, I just wish to say that we are going to have a very exciting season. Megiddo is an exciting site. The team is wonderful, and we are looking forward to have you. And I can assure you that you're going to have the time of your life. Come join us. Super.
All right, everyone. Well, this has been a really great time for us. We have enjoyed being with you on our sort of first live preseason discussion. So I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing about the site and are excited about the season. Those of you who have already registered, I will continue to be in touch with you. Those of you who might be interested in registering, I welcome hearing from you. Our excavation email is dig.megiddo@gmail.com. So please feel free to get in touch. You can find all of the information also on our website. So anything that we've mentioned that maybe you missed, you can always check there. There's tons of links in the chat. And we will try to get a lot of that information available on the website also. And I think that's it from all of us and all of our other staff folks who couldn't be with us here today. I want to thank you all for joining us, and we really hope to see you this summer. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.